The janitor wants a shot. Captain Drew Callahan's words slice through the morning like a knife without mercy. 40 witnesses turn their heads. Elite marksmen, range supervisors, observers, all eyes shifting toward the ammunition building. Laughter ripples down the firing line like a spreading infection of collective mockery. The target sits 4,000 meters downrange. 4 kilometers of wind, physics, and brutal precision compressed into one moment of truth. 11 of the military's best have already missed. 11 supposedly perfect shots that became near misses, each bullet kissing dirt just short of glory. Drew Callahan stands with his chest puffed out like he owns the world, pointing straight at the woman in warehouse coveralls standing next to stacked boxes of ammunition. No rank insignia, no unit patch, just worn fabric and the crushing weight of being invisible. This is Sergeant Eva Langford, though nobody here knows that name carries ghosts. The range bakes under a vicious morning sun, heat already dancing off distant hills. Wind flags twist and crack, 12 miles per hour, crossing from the left, the kind of weather that turns arrogance into embarrassment. The smell of gun oil and desert sand hangs thick in the air. Behind the firing line, a water truck rumbles past, its engine briefly drowning out the buzz of speculation. General Marcus Steele stands at the center of this small world, hands clasped behind his back, his weathered face giving nothing away. He'd asked a simple question 30 seconds ago. Any marksman here confident at 4,000 meters? The silence that followed felt respectful. Drew's comment shattered it into cruelty. Eva doesn't move. Her breathing follows a pattern, 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out, so subtle that only someone trained to spot operational breathing would notice. Her hands rest on an ammo crate, fingers positioned with unusual precision. Thumbs aligned, grip balanced, weight distributed exactly as you'd hold sensitive gear under stress. Not how a supply clerk handles a box, how an expert handles a weapon. Gunnery Sergeant Hayes stands 20 meters away, a weathered oak among saplings. 60 years old, Vietnam ribbons on his jacket, eyes that have witnessed every trick the military can produce. He watches Eva's breathing rhythm, and something ancient stirs in his memory. That's not anxiety control. That's pre-mission prep. Drew takes 3 steps forward, boots grinding gravel, playing to his crowd like a stand-up comic who's found his groove. General Steele, sir, with all respect, we've got the finest shooters in 3 states right here. I think we can manage this without... He pauses, savoring the moment. Inventory help. More laughter ripples through the group. A young specialist near the front pulls out his phone, angling for a picture of Eva. The screen captures her standing motionless among ammunition boxes, looking small and misplaced. He types quickly, "Warehouse sniper wannabe." The post goes live in their unit chat within seconds. Eva's eyes don't track the phone, don't track Drew. They're locked on something far away, something beyond the visible world, calculating angles that exist only in her head. A strand of brown hair has slipped from her regulation bun. She doesn't fix it. Her jaw is set, not in anger, but in the kind of patience that comes from watching fools perform before judges they don't see coming. The scar near her left temple catches sunlight, small, clean, the kind left by metal fragments traveling at specific speeds. IED blast signature if you know what to look for. Hayes knows. His eyes narrow. Captain Callahan makes a valid point, Steele says slowly, his voice carrying the weight of command and something else, weariness maybe or doubt. This is an assessment exercise for certified shooters. Miss, he pauses, realizing he doesn't know her name. Langford, sir. Eva's voice emerges quiet and clear with no tremor. Sergeant Eva Langford, Ammunition Logistics. The wind picks up, spinning dust devils between firing positions. A flag snaps hard enough to crack like a whip. Drew grins wider. See, General, logistics. She's probably great at counting bullets, shooting them. That's a whole different game. He turns to his fellow shooters, inviting them into his performance. No offense, Sergeant Langford, but maybe stick to what you know. We wouldn't want anyone getting hurt. None taken, sir? Eva's response comes flat, emotionless, the verbal version of a closed door. But something flickers in her eyes, not anger, not hurt, something colder. Recognition, perhaps, of a pattern she's seen before, the way predators circle before they strike, convinced their prey is helpless. Hayes shifts his weight, moves 3 steps closer. He's watching Eva's hands now as she lifts an ammunition crate, 40 pounds of brass and wood, and carries it toward the firing line. Her back stays straight, steps measured and even, breathing unchanged despite the load. That's not warehouse conditioning. That's military march muscle memory, the kind built from hauling combat loads across hostile ground. If you've ever been looked right through instead of being seen, you know this feeling. That moment when someone dismisses your existence, when your abilities get buried under their assumptions. Hit that like button. Let's prove that silent strength cuts deepest. The firing line stretches out like an operating table, clinical and exact. 11 shooting positions, each marked with spent brass and the bitter smell of failure. The Barrett rifles rest in their cradles, massive precision machines worth more than most vehicles. Beyond them, the range extends into impossible distance. 4,000 meters of calculation. 4,000 meters where physics and skill wage war. Drew walks the line like he owns the property, gesturing broadly. You see, General, this kind of shot demands advanced understanding of ballistics. Wind velocity, air pressure, Earth's rotation, temperature layers. He's lecturing now, voice rising with each technical term, establishing expertise like a peacock spreading feathers. Eva stands at the range edge, still holding that ammo crate. She hasn't put it down. Her eyes track the wind flags, one near the line, 3 at intervals downrange, the final one barely visible as a dot at 2,000 meters. Her lips move slightly, counting something, calculating without tools. A shooter named Martinez approaches the line, number 12, hungry to succeed where 11 failed. Young, confident with crosshairs tattooed on his forearm and a reputation for 300-meter perfection. He settles into position, his spotter calling wind data. 12 miles per hour, cross left, pressure dropping. Call it 0.3 mils right, 1.2 up. Martinez breathes, steadies, fires. The Barrett roars, a sound that slams the air and bounces off distant hills. 3 seconds of flight time. 3 seconds where hope and reality travel different paths. Miss left 1.4 meters. Drew claps Martinez on the shoulder. Good try. Conditions are brutal today. He turns to Steele, voice dripping manufactured concern. Sir, honestly, I recommend we postpone. This wind is unpredictable. Pressure's unstable. We're risking gear damage for minimal training value. Steele studies the downrange target through binoculars, silent. His jaw works like he's chewing words he doesn't want to swallow. Behind him, his aide, a lieutenant with fresh insignia and fresher doubts, shifts nervously. General, the captain might be right. We've never had conditions this difficult for an assessment. Noted, Lieutenant. Steele doesn't lower the binoculars. Eva finally sets down the ammo crate. The movement draws no attention. She's furniture background, part of the scenery against which important men make important decisions. She kneels beside the crate, opens it with practiced ease. Inside, rows of rounds rest like sleeping ordnance. She lifts one, holds it to the light, rotates it slowly, checking for flaws, examining the brass casing, the bullet seating the primer. Her fingers move with surgical precision, reading information that exists in millimeters and micrograms. Hayes moves closer still, close enough now to see what she's doing, close enough to recognize it. That's not supply inspection, he mutters, too quiet for anyone but himself. That's pre-mission verification. Eva replaces the round, selects another, repeats the process. 5 rounds checked in 30 seconds, each one meeting some internal standard before approval. She's building a mental profile of the ammunition, weight variations, manufacturing tolerances, consistency factors that matter when distance turns inches into miles. Drew notices her finally, his attention snagged by movement in his peripheral vision. He strides over, all swagger and territorial aggression. Sergeant, what exactly are you doing? Quality check, sir. Standard procedure before any range work. Her voice stays neutral, professional, giving him nothing to grab onto. Quality check, Drew laughs, short and harsh. These rounds were inspected at depot level. You think you're going to find something they missed? No, sir, just confirming specifications. Confirming? He leans down, invading her space, voice dropping to a stage whisper designed to carry. Listen, warehouse princess, I know you probably think hanging around shooters makes you one of us, but there's a difference between handling ammunition and understanding it. Why don't you let the professionals handle professional work? Eva's hands don't pause. She finishes inspecting the 5th round, places it carefully back in its slot. When she looks up at Drew, her eyes are winter gray and empty of everything except patience. Understood, sir. He waits for more, for defensiveness, for anger, for something to justify his contempt. She gives him nothing. After 5 seconds of staring into that blank professional courtesy, Drew straightens, frustrated by the absence of reaction. Good, now maybe find something useful to do. Coffee run, perhaps. He walks away, confident he's won something. Behind him, Eva reaches into her pocket and pulls out a small metal disc, a challenge coin worn smooth by years of handling. It catches sunlight for just a moment, revealing partial letters etched into its surface. Letters followed by numbers too worn to read clearly. She presses it against her palm, thumb rubbing the familiar grooves, then returns it to her pocket. Hayes sees the coin, sees the way she holds it. His breathing hitches. Challenge coins come from specific places, earned through specific actions. The way she grips that disc, like a talisman, like a reminder, like proof of something, speaks volumes in a language most people never learn. Time crawls thick as motor oil. The sun climbs higher, heat building toward noon. 13 potential shooters have now tried the 4,000-meter shot. 13 failures, each one closer than the last, each one proving that success exists just beyond reach. Steele checks his watch. 2 hours of range time remaining. His expression suggests a man calculating whether stubborn pride or tactical wisdom should win this battle. He glances at Eva, still kneeling beside the ammunition, now organizing rounds with methodical calm. Something about her bothers him, some nagging familiarity he can't place, like a word forgotten on the tongue's tip. "Captain Callahan," Steele says, voice cutting through the ambient noise, "one more attempt. Best shooter, best conditions. If we miss again, we cancel the drill and try again next month." Drew nods, already selecting his champion, Staff Sergeant Chen. 2 tour overseas, personal best at 3,800 meters. Chen approaches the line with focused intensity, a man who knows he's carrying expectations. Eva stands finally, brushing dust from her uniform. She moves toward the firing line, not approaching directly, but angling toward the equipment tables where spotting scopes and rangefinders rest in organized chaos. Her path takes her past Hayes. "That breathing pattern," Hayes says quietly, not looking at her. 444, that's not stress management." Eva doesn't stop walking, but her voice reaches him, low and clear. "No, Gunnery Sergeant, it's not." 5 words, confirmation and warning packed into syllables. Hayes feels the hair on his arms stand up. He's been in this job 40 years, trained hundreds of shooters, watched countless careers rise and fall. He knows the difference between people who learned skills and people who lived them. This woman carries something in her bones that no training manual teaches. Chen settles into position. His spotter runs calculations, calls corrections. 12.5 miles per hour now. Cross left, dropping. Pressure steady, temperature 103. Call it 0.35 mils right, 1.3 up. The math flows like poetry for those who understand the language. Every variable quantified, every factor accounted for. The entire universe compressed into scope adjustments measured in fractions of fractions. Chen fires. The Barrett's roar rolls across the range like distant thunder. Everyone watches the distant target through binoculars and spotting scopes. 3 seconds of held breath stretching into geological time. Miss right 0.9 meters, low 0.4. Closest yet, close enough to taste. Chen swears softly, professionalism barely containing frustration. Drew's jaw tightens. His best shooter just proved that today's conditions live exactly on the edge of possible and impossible. "That's it," Drew announces, voice pitched for Steele's ears but meant for everyone. "General, sir, I'm formally recommending we end this drill. Conditions are beyond reasonable parameters. We're wasting time and ammunition." Steele lowers his binoculars slowly. His face shows nothing. No agreement, no disagreement, just the carved neutrality of command decisions being weighed on invisible scales. The lieutenant behind him shifts again, clearly hopping for cancellation, for an end to this exercise in futility. "Perhaps the captain is correct," Steele begins, words emerging with reluctant gravity. "Sir," Eva's voice, still quiet, still clear, but now carrying something else. Not urgency, not pleading, but simple factual statement. Everyone turns. She stands 10 feet behind the firing line, hands at her sides, expression unchanged. "Sir, permission to attempt the shot." Silence descends like a dropped curtain. For 3 full seconds, no one moves. Then Drew laughs, starts as a chuckle, builds to full-throated amusement, head thrown back. "You cannot be serious." He looks at Steele, inviting him to share the joke. "General, this is..." He searches for words, finds them in the language of polite condescension. This is inappropriate. Sergeant Langford is in a non-combat role. She's logistics support. If she were injured during a live fire exercise, the liability issues alone. I waive liability, sir. Eva addresses Steele directly as if Drew hasn't spoken. One shot. If I miss, I'll never ask again. Drew steps forward, positioning himself between Eva and Steele like a human wall. General, with all respect, we can't allow this. She has no certification, no training records for long-range shooting. And frankly, he pauses, weighing cruelty against discipline, choosing cruelty. Frankly, sir, 13 trained snipers just failed. What exactly does a warehouse sergeant think she'll accomplish? Steele studies Eva, really looks at her for the first time since this drill began, sees the scar by her temple, sees the way she stands, weight balanced, center of gravity low, the subtle stance of someone trained to stay stable under stress. Sees her hands, relaxed but ready, fingers slightly curved in permanent muscle memory. Sees something familiar, something that nags at the edge of recognition, like a photograph glimpsed years ago and never quite forgotten. One shot, Steele says slowly. One attempt, miss, and you return to your duties. No argument, no appeals. Drew's mouth opens to protest. Steele's hand rises, cutting him off with parade ground authority. Captain, unless you're questioning my judgment, stand aside. The rebuke lands hard. Drew's face flushes, jaw muscles jumping, but he steps back. The crowd shifts, curiosity replacing contempt now, drawn by the novelty of watching someone so obviously unqualified attempt something so obviously impossible. Martinez, the young shooter with crosshairs tattooed on his forearm, turns to his spotter. This should be good. His phone appears again, ready to document spectacular failure. Eva walks toward the firing line, each step measured, unhurried, covering ground with the economical movement of someone who's walked longer distances under harder conditions. She passes Drew without looking at him, passes the equipment table, approaches the Barrett rifle still warm from Chen's attempt. She stops 3 feet short, removes her warehouse jacket, standard issue, name tape across the chest, no decorations, folds it precisely, sets it on the ground. Underneath, she wears a plain black athletic shirt, fitted but not tight, practical rather than fashionable. And on her right forearm, just below the elbow, where the jacket's short sleeves had hidden it, a tattoo. Most of it remains covered by the shirt's fabric, but a corner shows, dark ink forming what might be crosshairs, what might be letters, hard to make out in the harsh sunlight. Small enough to be subtle, large enough, if you know what you're looking for, to mean something. Hayes sees it. His hand moves to his own forearm unconsciously, touching bare skin where he once wore similar marks. His breathing changes, short, sharp, the involuntary response of recognition hitting like a physical blow. No way, he whispers. That can't be. Eva kneels at the firing position. Not sits, not lies prone, kneels. One knee down, other leg bent forward, body weight centered over her hips. An old position rarely used in modern training, specifically designed for rapid target acquisition under time pressure. She reaches for the Barrett. Her hands settle onto it with perfect placement. Strong hand wrapping the pistol grip, support hand cradling the forearm, trigger finger extended along the receiver outside the trigger guard. Every point of contact exact. No adjustment needed. As if the weapon exists as an extension of her anatomy rather than a separate tool. The wind gusts suddenly. Flags snap and twist, changing direction by 15 degrees in 2 seconds. Someone near the back mutters, "Impossible now, wind's too variable." Eva doesn't seem to notice. Her eyes track downrange, not at the target, not yet, but at the flags, at the heat shimmer rising from sun-baked earth, at invisible currents of air moving through space like river currents through water. Her lips move slightly, counting or calculating reading data that requires no instruments for those who have learned to see it. 4 seconds pass. Her right hand moves to the scope, fingers finding adjustment knobs with the precise touch of a safecracker. Click, 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 3 mils right, click, 1.1 mils up. Each adjustment deliberate based on calculations performed somewhere behind those winter gray eyes. Drew watches from 10 feet away, arms crossed, face arranged into anticipatory smugness. He's already planning his response, sympathetic but firm, explaining to Steele why warehouse personnel should stay in warehouses. Around him, the crowd settles into that particular attentiveness people bring to watching slow-motion disasters. Eva closes her eyes, 2 full seconds of darkness shutting out visual input, focusing inward. Her chest rises and falls in that same pattern. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. Combat breathing, sniper breathing. The rhythm that steadies heart rate, that creates stillness in the body's center while chaos swirls at the edges. Hayes moves closer to the firing line, unable to help himself, drawn by the magnetic pull of recognition. He sees her sleeve shift as she adjusts position, sees another inch of that tattoo, definitely letters now, definitely intentional design. His mind races backward through years and memories, through classified briefings and operations discussed in rooms without windows. Ghost Horizon, the program that officially never existed, the unit that officially never deployed. 7 operators, 7 legends, 7 names that appeared on no roster and no memorial, 7 deaths if you believe the sanitized reports. Eva opens her eyes. The world rushes back, color and light and distance compressed into the narrow tunnel of magnified optics. Through the scope, the target appears. A steel silhouette, man-sized, 4,000 meters downrange, shimmering slightly in thermals rising from desert floor. Impossible distance, impossible conditions, 13 failures proving impossibility. Her finger moves from the receiver to the trigger, settles gently against the curve, taking up slack with pressure measured in ounces. The Barrett weighs 30 pounds. The trigger breaks at 3. The difference between those numbers represents the space where skill lives or dies. Wind gusts again. Eva doesn't adjust. She's already accounted for it, already read the pattern, already understood that this particular gust is anomaly rather than trend. Her breathing reaches the bottom of its cycle, 4 counts out, lungs empty, body still, the moment between heartbeats, the moment between breaths, the moment where physics and will collide. She fires. The Barrett roars, sound that punches through air, that rattles teeth and chest cavities, that announces violence even when channeled toward steel rather than flesh. The weapon recoils, muzzle climbing despite the massive brake designed to tame it. Spent brass ejects in a glittering arc, hitting the ground with a musical clink. Eva rides the recoil perfectly, body absorbing energy, returning to stable position in under a second. She doesn't watch downrange, doesn't track the bullet's flight through the scope. She simply waits, stillness absolute, as if she's already seen how this story ends and knows waiting is merely formality. 3 seconds of flight time, 3 seconds where 40 people hold their breath, 3 seconds where probability and reality race toward intersection. The radio crackles. Range officer's voice, professionally flat, carrying across the suddenly silent firing line through speakers positioned every 20 meters. Hit confirmed, center mass. For 1 full second, nobody moves. The words exist but haven't yet penetrated, haven't yet translated into meaning. Then the world unfreezes all at once. Wait, what? Martinez yanks binoculars to his face. Recheck that, Drew snaps. Spotters confirm. 3 different voices respond through the radio net, each one examining the target through high-powered optics from different angles. Confirmed hit, center mass. Impact verified. Perfect placement, dead center strike, no question. The gasp that ripples through the crowd sounds like wind through wheat fields. Organic, collective, involuntary. 40 witnesses reacting as a single organism, shock manifesting as sound. Eva stands smoothly with no haste and no drama. She engages the Barrett's safety with one practiced motion, steps back from the firing line, turns to face General Steele. Her expression hasn't changed, hasn't shifted toward satisfaction or vindication or anything resembling emotion. She simply stands at attention, waiting for dismissal. But her right sleeve has shifted during the shooting sequence, pulled higher by the weapon's recoil and her body's movement. The tattoo shows now, revealed in the harsh noon sun for anyone close enough to see details. Crosshairs, letters, numbers, and surrounding them in precise geometric arrangement, the insignia of a unit that officially never existed. Letters and numbers in a circle, encircled by angular patterns that form a horizon line pierced by a projectile's trajectory. Ghost Horizon, Operator Number 1, Primary Shooter. Hayes reaches the firing line in 3 long strides, close enough now to see clearly, to confirm what memory and instinct have been screaming. His voice comes out rough, scraped raw by recognition and impossible resurrection. Ghost Horizon, Langford, you're supposed to be KIA. The crowd's murmur cuts off like someone threw a switch. That acronym, KIA, carries weight that transcends its three letters: killed in action, dead, past tense, history rather than present. Eva turns her head slowly toward Hayes. The first real emotion crosses her face, not happiness or relief, but something sadder and more complicated. Acknowledgement, perhaps, the burden of being recognized lifting slightly. "I got better, Gunnery Sergeant." Steele moves then, crossing the distance between them in 5 purposeful strides. His face has changed, shock replacing carefully maintained neutrality. He stops 3 feet from Eva, close enough to see the tattoo clearly, close enough to catalog the scar tissue and old damage that marks someone who's lived through violence and carried it forward. "Sergeant," his voice trails off. He's searching memory now, pulling files from mental archives, comparing the woman before him against images he saw years ago in classified briefings. "Langford, Eva Langford, Operation Ghost Horizon." Each word comes harder, weighted with implications that spread like spilled water. "You were listed as KIA 7 years ago. Desert operation went wrong. Entire unit lost." "6 KIA, sir." Eva's correction comes gentle but firm. "I survived." "The report said no survivors." Steele's voice carries the edge of someone discovering that truth comes in multiple editions. "Yes, sir, the report said that." Drew has approached now, face cycling through confusion toward understanding, and then toward something that looks remarkably like fear. He stares at the tattoo, at Eva's face, at the way Steele is looking at her with an expression that mixes respect and horror. "There's been some mistake," Drew begins, voice tight. "Ghost Horizon was disbanded, operators reassigned or discharged. She can't be." "Captain Callahan?" Steele doesn't raise his voice, doesn't need to. The words land like hammers. 7 years ago, you were attached to Ghost Horizon as tactical coordinator, correct?" Drew's face drains toward white. "Sir, I was one of many staff officers involved in." "You filed the final operation report, recommended unit disbandment based on catastrophic mission failure." Steele's words pick up momentum, each sentence hitting harder. "7 casualties, no survivors, mission parameters compromised, recommend immediate termination of program." His eyes bore into Drew. "Your words, Captain, your signature." "That was the situation assessment, sir, based on available intelligence." "Available intelligence that apparently missed the fact that Sergeant Langford survived." Steele gestures at Eva, who stands motionless through this exchange, watching Drew with those winter-gray eyes that give away nothing. Martinez, still holding his phone, has lowered it slowly. The young shooter who posted mocking photos 30 minutes ago now looks like someone who stumbled into a conversation in a language he doesn't speak. Around him, the crowd shifts, whispers spreading, information flowing in hurried fragments. Ghost Horizon was Black Ops. Thought they were myth. 7 operators, 7 missions, 7 perfect records until the last one. Hayes stands beside Eva now, silent presence lending weight. After 40 years in this business, he's seen every flavor of impossible. But watching Eva Langford rise from the officially dead ranks somewhere high on that list. "I trained your unit," he says quietly. "Year before deployment, best students I ever had." Eva nods once. "You taught us to think in wind, Gunny, still using your lessons." Apparently, Hayes's voice carries something between pride and grief. Steele pulls a tablet from his aide's hands, fingers moving across the screen with sharp, precise motions. He's calling up files, accessing records that require multiple authentication steps. The screen glows against his face as he scrolls through classified documents, comparing archived photos against the woman standing before him. Their image from 7 years ago. 7 operators in desert gear, faces sun-dark and hard, standing before a horizon that stretches into infinity. Front row center, a younger Eva Langford. Same gray eyes, same expression of controlled intensity. The tattoo clearly visible on her forearm, mark of the primary shooter. Steele turns the tablet toward Drew. "Captain, explain to me why a warehouse clerk shoots better than 11 certified snipers. Explain why her marksmanship file shows no long-range training. Explain why the person standing in front of me was declared dead 7 years ago while filing paperwork about ammunition inventory." Drew's mouth works silently for 3 seconds before words emerge. "General, if there were errors in the initial casualty assessment, that's tragic, but it doesn't change the fact that the mission failed. 7 operators, 6 operators were lost. The program was compromised. My recommendation stood based on." Based on your recommendation, Eva speaks for the first time since confirming the hit. Her voice hasn't changed, still quiet, still clear, but something underneath it has shifted, steel showing through silk. Captain Callahan gave one order that night, one decision that killed 6 people I loved, and then he buried us, not just the bodies, the truth. The temperature seems to drop despite the desert heat. Every person on the firing line feels it, the moment when casual cruelty meets consequence, when mockery collides with memory. Drew takes a step back, actually retreats, boot heels sliding in gravel. I followed protocol, made command decisions based on available intelligence if mistakes were made. If, the word comes from Hayes, loaded with 7 years of accumulated rage on behalf of people he trained and lost. Son, the only mistake visible from where I'm standing is you. Steele raises one hand, commanding silence. His tablet screen still glows, showing Eva's file, her record, her ghost status dating back 7 years. When he speaks again, his voice carries the formal weight of decisions being made in real time. Captain Callahan, you are hereby relieved of instructional duties effective immediately, pending investigation into discrepancies in Operation Ghost Horizon casualty reports. He looks at his aide. Lieutenant, contact MPs. I want Captain Callahan escorted to headquarters and confined to quarters until further notice. Sir, you can't, Drew begins. I am, and you will comply. Steele's voice could cut steel. Sergeant Langford, you will accompany me to headquarters for debriefing. Your status requires immediate clarification. Eva nods, yes, sir. And Captain, Steele turns back to Drew one final time. That 4,000-meter shot, 11 trained snipers missed, 1 warehouse clerk hit center mass. I'll be very interested to read your explanation of how that happened. Drew says nothing. His face has settled into gray resignation, the expression of someone watching their carefully constructed world collapse in real time. 2 MPs appear, summoned by the lieutenant's quick radio call, and position themselves on either side of him. As they lead him away, Martinez approaches Eva slowly, phone hanging forgotten in his hand. The young shooter's face shows genuine confusion mixing with dawning understanding. The shot I posted, he says quietly, the one I called warehouse sniper wannabe. I saw it. Eva's voice holds no anger, no resentment, just fact. I'm sorry, I didn't know. He stops, realizing how hollow the words sound. You didn't, Eva looks at him steadily. Now you do. What you do next matters more than what you did before. Martinez nods slowly, something shifting behind his eyes, growth happening in real time, visible as sunrise. He turns to the other shooters clustered nearby. Delete the posts, all of them, and spread the word. Anyone who shared that photo takes it down now. Phones emerge across the firing line. Thumbs move quickly, erasing mockery, undoing cruelty with the same speed it was created. The images vanish from group chats and social feeds, leaving only memory and conscience. Steele gestures toward a vehicle parked near the range office. Sergeant Langford, with me, we have considerable ground to cover. Eva bends to retrieve her warehouse jacket, folds it over one arm. She picks up the spent brass casing from her shot, single piece of evidence, physical proof of impossible accuracy, and slips it into her pocket beside the challenge coin that never left. As she walks toward the vehicle, Hayes falls into step beside her. One question, he says quietly. Why hide? Why warehouse duty? Why 3 years of this treatment? Why not come forward immediately? Eva glances at him. Because coming forward immediately meant Drew would have time to destroy evidence, would have resources to cover his tracks, would have authority to make my word worthless against his rank. She touches the pocket holding the brass casing. I needed him confident, needed him visible, needed him to think I was no threat. She pauses at the vehicle's door. Justice isn't loud, Gunny, it's patient. Hayes nods slowly. For what it's worth, kid, your unit would be proud. Best shot I've seen in 40 years. Second best. Eva's voice softens fractionally. Ghost 3 was better, he's the one I learned from. Past tense. Ghost 3 exists in memory now, casualty of the night that officially killed them all. The vehicle's engine rumbles to life. Eva climbs in beside Steele, door closing with military precision. Through the window, she watches the firing line recede. 40 witnesses to impossible accuracy, 40 witnesses to resurrection, 40 people who will carry this story forward through barracks and bars and anywhere soldiers gather to share legends. The range fades behind them, heat shimmer and distance turning it into mirage. But the Barrett still rests at the firing line, barrel cooling in desert air, having spoken truth in the only language that can't be argued or dismissed. One shot, 4,000 meters, center mass, not luck, not chance, not the amateur hour Drew tried to paint it as, skill, memory, and 7 years of patience wearing the face of weakness while waiting for the moment when strength could matter. The vehicle turns onto the main road, heading toward headquarters where questions wait. Questions about casualty reports and mission failures, about why 6 people died and 1 survived, about what really happened 7 years ago in a desert that keeps secrets better than any classified document. Eva watches the landscape roll past, thumb rubbing the challenge coin in her pocket, worn smooth by years of handling, by 3 years of warehouse duty, by every moment she chose silence over speaking. The truth is coming now, not in fire or fury, but in the methodical, unstoppable way that justice moves when given time enough to build momentum. And somewhere ahead, in offices with security clearances and locked filing cabinets, evidence waits. Helmet cam footage, mission logs, radio transcripts, the accumulated weight of facts that can't be buried forever, no matter how many signatures try to seal them. Drew thought he'd buried 7 people. Turns out he only buried 6. And the 7th just announced her resurrection with a single perfect shot that echoed across 4,000 meters of truth. The vehicle's air conditioning hums against desert heat, but Eva barely notices. Her fingers trace the challenge coin's worn edges, muscle memory seeking comfort in familiar grooves. Through the windshield, headquarters rises from shimmering asphalt, 3 stories of concrete authority where questions wait like landmines. General Steele drives in silence, hands steady, jaw working through calculations Eva can't see but understands intimately. He's reorganizing his understanding of reality, fitting new information into frameworks built on 7-year-old lies. The process takes time. Eva has patience to spare. They pass through security gates, salutes exchanged, IDs scanned into the administrative heart of the base. Steele parks in a commander slot, kills the engine. The sudden quiet feels heavy. "Before we go inside," he says, not looking at her, "I need to know one thing. Why now? Why 3 years of warehouse duty? Why wait until today?" Eva watches a pair of junior personnel hurry past, their conversation bright with gossip about the impossible shot already spreading through base communication, channels faster than official reports ever could. "Because justice needs witnesses, sir, and evidence that can't be dismissed. You could have come to me directly." "Could I?" She turns to face him. 7 years ago, you signed the order disbanding Ghost Horizon based on Captain Callahan's report. With respect, sir, you were part of the problem. Coming to you meant trusting you'd believe a dead sergeant over a living captain. Her voice stays level, factual. "I needed you to see truth before anyone told you what to think about it." Steele's knuckles whiten on the steering wheel. "That report cost me sleep, Sergeant. 6 operators lost in a single night. I carried that weight." 6, Eva's correction comes gentle but unyielding. "Sir, 7 people died that night. I'm just the only one still breathing." The words settle between them like stones. Steele nods slowly, something breaking behind his eyes, not weakness, but the necessary fracture that lets new understanding through. "Headquarters Conference Room 3. I'm calling in investigators from outside the chain of command." He pauses. "This goes federal, Langford. Are you prepared for that?" "I've been prepared for 7 years, sir." They exit the vehicle. The walk to Conference Room 3 takes 2 minutes through corridors painted institutional beige, fluorescent lights humming overhead like mechanical insects. Personnel snap to attention as Steele passes, reflex and respect, but their eyes linger on Eva with naked curiosity. News travels fast in military communities. Impossible shots travel faster. Conference Room 3, rectangular space dominated by a long table, walls covered with maps and organizational charts. Steele gestures Eva to a seat, then moves to the room's secure phone line. His conversation consists of crisp sentences. "Priority 1 investigation. Ghost Horizon operation. Survivor testimony. Need investigators now." Eva sits, removes the brass casing from her pocket, sets it on the table, physical proof standing upright like a tiny monument. Beside it, the challenge coin, facing up, catching fluorescent light. The door opens. Lieutenant Chen enters carrying a tablet and case files thick enough to stop bullets. Behind him, 2 federal investigators, A woman in her 40s with gray-streaked hair and eyes that have seen every variation of human dishonesty, and a younger man whose fresh suit suggests either new assignment or particular care about appearances. Special Agent Reeves, the woman introduces herself. Special Agent Morrison, General Steele requested immediate response to allegations regarding Operation Ghost Horizon. Her gaze fixes on Eva. You're Sergeant Langford. Yes, ma'am. According to military records, you died 7 years ago in a desert operation gone wrong. Yet here you are. Would you care to explain that discrepancy? The report was wrong, ma'am. I survived. And spent 7 years doing what exactly? Morrison's tone carries skepticism like a weapon. Warehouse inventory, that's quite a career pivot from special operations. Eva meets his gaze steadily. I spent 7 years waiting for the right moment to speak truth that couldn't be ignored or buried. Reeves leans forward slightly. Why wait? Why not come forward immediately after the incident? Because Captain Callahan controlled the narrative, ma'am. He filed the reports, managed the investigation, sealed the records. Coming forward then meant my word against his authority and his access to evidence. Eva's voice remains calm, clinical. I needed time, needed him comfortable, needed witnesses he couldn't intimidate. 40 witnesses today, Steele adds, including myself. Sergeant Langford demonstrated capabilities far beyond warehouse logistics. Morrison pulls up files on his tablet. Let's discuss the original operation. Ghost Horizon, November of 7 years ago. 7 operators deployed for target elimination in hostile territory. Mission parameters. Eva's hands remain flat on the table. High-value target, time-sensitive window, primary shooter, members providing overwatch, communications, and extraction security. And what went wrong? The temperature in the room seems to drop. Eva's breathing shifts, 4 counts in, 4 counts hold before she answers. Captain Callahan ordered us to hold position despite changing tactical conditions. Target window was closing. I requested authorization to engage. He denied it, insisted on waiting for reinforcements that were 2 hours out. Standard caution, Morrison observes. Standard for someone who didn't understand the situation on the ground. Eva's voice hardens fractionally. We had 30 minutes of viable darkness. After that, enemy patrols would triple. Waiting meant exposure. I communicated this clearly 3 times. Reeves checks her notes. Captain Callahan's report states that you were the one who insisted on waiting against his recommendation to abort. Silence stretches thin as wire. Eva's expression doesn't change, but something shifts behind her eyes. Not surprise at the lie, but confirmation of its audacity. That's creative fiction, ma'am. Can you prove it? Morrison's challenge comes sharp. Yes, sir. Helmet camera footage, radio logs, mission recordings stored on secure servers that Captain Callahan believed were erased. Eva pauses, but weren't. Steele straightens, explain. Ghost Horizon protocol required triple redundancy for operation documentation, primary server for official records, secondary backup for quality review, tertiary archive for classified long-term storage. Eva's words come precise as mathematics. Captain Callahan accessed the first 2, deleted files, altered reports. He never knew about the third. Reeves and Morrison exchange glances. Communication in that shared look, silent agreement about escalation. And you know this how? Reeves asks. Because I'm the one who designed the tertiary system, ma'am. Primary shooter, double duty as communications specialist. I built the backup nobody talked about because operational security matters more than paperwork. Eva pulls a small USB drive from her pocket, worn, scratched, carried for 7 years. Everything's here. Audio, video, timestamps. 37 minutes of Captain Callahan making decisions that killed 6 people. The USB drive hits the table with a plastic click that sounds like a gavel. Morrison reaches for it, but Reeves stops him with one raised hand. Before we review evidence, I need your account, complete timeline, what happened that night. Eva's hands curl slightly, then force themselves flat again. Drop your prediction in the comments. Will justice finally catch up, or does power protect its own? And subscribe so you don't miss how this ends. The next 10 minutes will change everything. The next 10 minutes, Eva speaks in mission report cadence, emotions stripped away, leaving only facts arranged in chronological precision. Drop off 12 kilometers from target compound. Approach took 4 hours, slow movement through hostile territory. By dawn, we had eyes on target. High-value individual confirmed, present, vulnerable, window of opportunity open. Her voice settles into rhythm. I radioed Captain Callahan, requested authorization to engage. He ordered us to wait for air support scheduled for 2 hours later. I explained that target would be mobile by then, security would increase with sunrise, opportunity would close. He repeated the order, wait for air support. Did you comply? Morrison asks. Yes, sir. For 45 minutes we held position, watched the target, watched dawn approach, watched enemy patrol patterns shift exactly as I'd predicted. Her jaw tightens. I contacted Callahan again, advised that we had 30 minutes of viable darkness remaining. After that, our position would be compromised. He told me direct quote, "Stop questioning orders, Sergeant. Your job is to shoot when I say shoot." Reeves writes quickly, pen scratching across notepad, "Continue." Enemy patrol discovered our primary extraction route. We shifted to alternate position, but movement created noise. Dogs started barking in the compound. Target went into enhanced security protocol. Window closed. Eva's breathing accelerates slightly despite her control. I radioed Callahan, advised that mission was compromised, requested immediate extraction. He denied, ordered us to maintain position and wait for air support to sanitize the area. Sanitize? Steele's voice carries disbelief. His words, sir. He wanted helicopter gunships to eliminate enemy patrol so we could still take the shot 45 minutes after the mission window closed. Eva's hands become fists. I explained that our position was burned. Every minute we stayed increased risk exponentially. He said, another direct quote, "I make tactical decisions. You execute them. Hold your position or face charges for disobeying orders under fire." The room absorbs this in silence. Morrison leans back, arms crossed. Reeves continues writing. Steele's face has gone stone still. We held, Eva continues, 28 minutes until enemy quick reaction force arrived. 12 hostiles with technical support and heavy weapons. They had our position marked, probably from thermal imaging we didn't know they possessed. Her voice flattens further, becomes pure data transmission. Contact initiated. We returned fire, called for emergency extraction. Callahan authorized it then, 30 minutes too late. Casualties, Reeves prompts gently. Ghost 2 took rounds during initial contact, died before we could apply medical intervention. Ghost 4 and 6 were hit during fighting withdrawal. We carried them, made it 200 meters before enemy deployed IED in our path. Eva stops, swallows. I was point, triggered the device. Blast threw me 8 meters. Shrapnel hit my temple, fractured 2 ribs, ruptured my left eardrum. When I regained consciousness, Ghost 3 was performing emergency medical on me. Her hand moves to the scar near her temple, unconscious gesture touching old damage. He'd been hit too, abdomen wound, bleeding bad, but he was stopping my bleeding first. Always did, put others before himself. Present tense slipping into past, grief showing through professionalism's cracks. Ghost 3 was your fiancé? Reeves says quietly, reading from files. Marcus Webb, 28 years old. Yes, ma'am. Eva's voice drops. He held pressure on my wounds until the bleeding stopped. Then he pulled me behind cover, returned fire to keep the enemy back, bought time for Ghost 5 and 7 to reach us. They tried to stabilize him, tried to stop the bleeding, but abdominal wounds. She trails off. He died there, Morrison states. He died saving me, again, like he'd done a dozen times before. Eva's eyes focus on something beyond the conference room walls, seeing a different desert, a different dawn. Ghost 5 and 7 got me to the extraction point. Helicopter finally arrived. Enemy fire intensified. During boarding, Ghost 5 and 7 were both hit. 5 died in the helicopter. 7 died at the field hospital an hour later. Mathematics of loss calculated in blood. 7 operators deployed. 6 dead within 3 hours. 1 survivor pulled from wreckage carrying wounds that should have been fatal. I woke up 4 days later in a military hospital, Eva continues. Medically induced coma, surgeries, intensive care. When I finally came around enough to ask questions, they told me Ghost Horizon was disbanded. All operators listed as KIA.